Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om, I bow to the Lord Vasudeva. Hello, friends. I would like to begin by reading, and then I'll have a little discussion of it. We're in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and I'm going to read 3 stanzas today. Stanza 42, this admixture, which is to say confusion as to one's proper directions in life, plunges down to hell both the family's destroyers, again, brackets, those deeds and qualities which underline or disrupt a person's carefully developed family of consciousness, and the family itself. The family's ancestors, brackets, the individual's inheritance from former lives of subconscious tendencies, end bracket, will be forsaken owing to the withholding of traditional offerings of rice balls and water, brackets, symbolic of the concern and energy with which people feed their latent tendencies. 43. By such wrongdoings, those who disrupt the family, brackets, by removing a person's carefully gathered self-definitions, and create an admixture of the castes, brackets again, by confusing one's established and heretofore normal seeming self-identity, close brackets, the age-old sense of personal reality will be destroyed. Stanza 44. O Janardana Krishna, often have we heard that men who lack all sense of family obligations, family religious rights, brackets one's traditional sense of individual function and purpose, are forced to reside indefinitely in hell. Now, there are a number of points that I'd like to raise on this issue here. The first one is the fact that as people begin to realize that there is a higher call to the soul than just wallowing in sense pleasures and wallowing in the so-called gratifications of name and fame, once, in other words, the soul tires of this constant disappointment of this world, because the world is consistent, as I said, in only one thing. It always breaks its promises. It never satisfies, and because of the principle of Dvaita, of duality, everything has its opposite, and every plus that you experience must be followed sooner or later by a minus. The thwarting cross currents of ego may delay that, because the ego goes off this way, then that way, then the other way, and so it may take time for the opposite to manifest itself, but it must. And it is certainly an irony which becomes more and more exasperating, endlessly frustrating for the soul and the ego, both, as they come to realize more and more clearly that the sum total of everything that they've ever done has to be zero. And sooner or later, this anguishing monotony, as my guru put it, begins to make a person think there's got to be another answer. Now, there's no other answer as long as our energy goes outward from the core of our being in the ego, and deeper than that in the soul, as long as it goes outward to the world through the senses. We've got to turn within. And this realization creates confusion, because there is this thought in our minds, owing to habits, owing to past life impressions and so on, that, well, I'm a policeman, or I'm a lawyer, or I'm a judge, or I'm a writer, or a businessman. Or it's very hard to shake the seeming reality of a world that in fact has no reality. Science has really brought us to the precipice on this point, because it too, although people like to feel that they're being scientific and absolutely rationalistic and real, science tells us that there's nothing real, that everything is energy. And many scientists are beginning to wonder whether that energy is not actually just consciousness. Everything is a dream of God's. Your life is a dream, and all that you work for so seriously. I remember just yesterday or the day before, I watched a video of Laurence Olivier playing Henry V of Shakespeare. And it was an amusing thing to me to consider all the excitement, the war that resulted because the Dauphin, the heir to the throne of France, sent mockingly to King Henry V a box of tennis balls. Well, if Henry V had simply said that, what does it matter what he thinks of me? I am what I am. There wouldn't have been all that excitement. But no, he had to get all excited and angry. I know my father once was challenged to a duel in Romania where he was working. He simply ignored the man. I think that's the only sensible thing to do. When people insult you, when they threaten you, who cares? This world is so full of different opinions. You don't owe it to anybody to be anything but yourself and let other people go eat cake if they want to. And so what you find is that as it said in the Gita, in the sloka before this, the stanza before this, that there's the danger of the mixture of the varnas, the different castes, the different qualities of man that take one upward, that take one downward. You know, there comes this point where we do realize that we have absolutely no choice. And at that point, some people go mad. In fact, it's a very strange thing. Freud had a good answer. It was just the wrong answer. There is this fight that creates conflicts, that creates tensions, that creates all the suffering man goes through. But he resolved it by saying, let's get rid of the upward moving, the upward tending tendencies in man, and let's just indulge in our lower tendencies. This just doesn't work because you're not that's not you. There is this higher self that you cannot get rid of. You can get rid of the ego, but you can never get rid of the soul. You are a soul, you have an ego. It's not the reverse. And so Freud had this mistaken idea that in order to get rid of these complexes and these suppressions, we have to start giving in to our desires, especially our sexual desires. Well, the thing is, it doesn't work. You find people going through psychoanalysis for years, and they're still going through psychoanalysis. It doesn't help you. You can get rid of your anger by throwing mud at a board or beating somebody up or any expressive way you want, but all it does is affirm the tendency of anger in yourself. And so, whereas in the beginning you may feel better, in the end you will just have affirmed that very quality you're trying to get rid of, and you'll get more angry and more angry. It doesn't work that way. But in the beginning, there's this constant battle in the ego between the longing to find a better way of life and the realization that it means, if we find that better way of life, very sternly giving up everything we've looked for, longed for, and worked for many incarnations. So let's develop this theme a little bit over our next talks. Joy to you.